Hello there folks, so I've braved Storm Darcy or whatever and come out for a wander here in the north, the barren north, and I'm just looking at this landscape. On the one hand it's absolutely spectacular, it's beautiful, but on the other hand I'm looking at it and I'm thinking back in primordial ages, thousands and thousands of years ago, when European people actually had to scratch out a living on this. I mean, these days it's kind of, we assume barrenness or places which are hard to live, and we assume that Europe, and especially northern Europe, was some bounteous place. Well, it is for a small portion of the year, but like for a sizable portion of the year it looks like this, and it would have looked like this a lot more in the past. So just imagine like waking up every day and then like thinking that you're going to have to survive in this. Where's the food coming from? Where even the water that you drink's turned into a solid block, and that's not even to mention the fact that you're going to have to keep warm. And so you get this sense that when you come out on days like this, like in the past, European people were just under assault from nature, like on all sides. So, you know, I mean, some of the things that I've got into recently is this overcoming of nature, this conquering of the natural world. But when you look at a place like this and you think about how people had to survive in days gone by, you can see where that drive actually originated from, because it was just the northern European being under assault, heavy assault from nature at every turn. And people like Kevin MacDonald have said like this is what led to altruism, where in a more sort of individualistic society. I mean, one of the things I remember reading in one of his books was that you, if you're a thief or a bit of a scoundrel in such a harsh environment, then you will naturally just be outcast by everybody else because you can't be trusted, and you know, people will die essentially. Whereas if you can be trusted and you bought I don't know, like a turnip for a piece of fish, then that's so highly rewarded that's going to become part of a network, because that plays in with the individualist side of it, which was people scattered across the barren wastes. And so when you actually do meet in somebody else, the tendency, the incentive was to be nice and kind and exchange goods in order that everybody would survive, whereas the thief or the liar would be thrown out. And so you can see in a way that this kind of harsh environment actually did lead in the end to a high trust society. That was kind of the argument there, where if everybody is settled for thousands of years in this, and they have to trust each other in order to cooperate just to survive, you can see that the high trust society was kind of almost built into the DNA of the land, if you like. There's a big problem with this though, and it's a tendency that leads towards universalism, which can be misused. It means you can have outgroups come in and rig the game. But when we look at so many of the, say, something like liberalism, you can see that it kind of shines through. But so this gets me back to an argument that I was having with a sort of high Tory neoliberal shill type. Now I know that for a lot of these people, they're just loathsome lying bastards and they're cowards who don't want to go against the sort of dominant orthodoxy of the day. But nevertheless, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here, just to frame this argument a little bit. We were talking about let's just say the changing face of England, and he was calling me a racist. And he was falling back on an argument which basically was one of individualism, where we shouldn't judge groups. We shouldn't judge whole groups. We should only judge the individual. And the problem is that makes us blind, because if we go back to the idea of pathological altruism and the idea of where we had to coordinate in the barren north in order just to scrape by in these harsh winters, then what you're going to see is that this is something which is specific to Europeans and which doesn't apply to other people from other parts of the world. And so there's this grim irony here where our kind of thought processes and ways of looking at the world are being weaponized and used against us. But these people are so blind, and by the way, like I say, this is just to give them the benefit of the doubt. These people are so blinded by that they can't actually even break through it to see that, well, the other people had a different path through life, through even to the evolutionary degree. They grew up and they sort of came of age as groups in a different part of the world and had a different outlook on life. So then he's going to say that the assumption then is that all of everybody across the world is shares the same traits as the high trust Northern Europeans, even though they come from completely different environments and had different pressures on them across time. And what's more is that normally I don't even talk in these kind of empirical Darwinian terms. I'm more of an idealist, but again, this is like their ballpark. So these people are like classic liberals. This is their thing. These kind of scientific and empirical theories based on evolutionary pressures and all of this, that's what they should be defending. And it becomes so chronic that because of the pressures mainly on society today, on the propaganda we get, which is I think why it informs their position more than any real understanding, we can sort of see that the universalism that was born out on the northern plains is now become such a dominant worldview that they can't even assume that not everybody else shares it. So another problem that we get with these people who can't see past the universalism, they can't see that it's only one group that's actually has a historical path for that. Another problem they have is this thing where you come in contact with the reality of it not actually being the case in the real world, and then in the abstraction. In other words, it's to say, well, it should be like that. And we just have to work on it, and it's not actually happening in the real world because of this reason or that reason. And usually they'll cite outliers. You'll cite some one group behaves in a way which isn't universalistic, or even, I mean, more and more just has complete contempt for like say us. And then they'll write that off as like an outlier. But then you'll cite another one and it's another outlier. You cite another example and it's another outlier. And so all of a sudden you've got like the situation where the outliers are the norm. But they can't see that because the abstraction is still there. It should be like this, but we don't know why. And they don't know why because they are the only ones who are even expected or have any kind of evolutionary pressure put on them for thousands of years to think in these ways, to have that kind of sort of inter-group altruism. If you go back to what I was talking about, and you bump into somebody and have a bit of barter and trade with them on the barren steppe of the north in winter. None of the other groups have any of that. They don't display it. They don't show any interest in it. And yet still, you get these people, these kind of centre-right Tory types, these classic liberal types, who just refuse to see reality. And funny enough, like, this is another trait of like this universalist European thing, is to boot everything into this phase space of abstraction and not actually, I mean, on the one hand it led to beautiful art and music because you can pull it out of there, say, but then at the same time it leaves people completely myopic to what's going on, like, actually on the ground. So they're being like cooked on all sides and under assault from all sides, like what was once nature. So instead, it's like humanity now. Humanity is the pressurizing force in the way that nature was in times gone by. But these idiots just can't see it. And I can't stand them all. I can't stand them, the shallow materialism as well. because even what I'm saying now, they would ask, well, do you have a citation for that? Do you have this for that? Do you have? They can't use reason, and they're stuck in this kind of suicidal paradigm. And I've just got nothing but contempt for them. So now that that's off my mind, I'm gonna carry on blowing the cobwebs away in this harsh, barren climate. I'll catch you later, folks.